Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. Presented by Rogue Matter, we talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every week, giving you a rogue perspective on everything going on in the pop culture universe. Download our podcast immediately following this live stream on all major podcasting apps. Go to roguewavepodcast.com to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, or catch us on this live stream every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on facebook.com/Rogue Matter Podcasts. Join the movement. Go Rogue, roguematter.com. I am your host, Michael Dolce, as always, joined by the anti-Clark Kent, my co-host extraordinaire, the Lord of the Radio, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
Yay. Great to be here.
I only say that because you have your cool glasses, and that's your persona. And Clark Kent, I guess you're not the anti-Clark Kent, you're the anti-Superman, right? Because Superman takes off. Clark Kent takes off.
Yes. And Clark Kent puts the glasses on. But I didn't see fit to correct you on that. So.
Nice, I corrected myself. See? A lot of self-correction. How was your Christmas?
Right.
How was your
I
Christmas?
don't celebrate Christmas.
How was your Festivus?
I don't celebrate Festivus.
How was
last week? Last week was quiet.
Holiday weekend there?
It was quiet.
You watched Wonder Woman 1984 like everyone else did.
Yes, I did.
We are going to dive into Wonder Woman 1984. The thing that I found interesting was we go to great lengths on this show when we have guests, right? We kind of give our guests our rules. We kind of say, this is what we do. This is what we do. One of the rules we give them is the cursing rule. We don't curse you, but we will bing you, if you do curse. So that's why when you listen to us, you can hear sometimes if someone curses, if you curse, we do it. If I curse, you do it to me. It's a cute little thing. All that being said. So. Wonder Woman 1984 was a weird fucking movie. And that is a
bing.
Giant bing. I had to do it in two sittings, first of all, and we'll kind of discuss the at-home experience versus the movie theater experience a little later. But it took me a good, the first 45 minutes was tough. I got to watch, so I continued it the next day. It was like 10 o'clock at night, so I could have stayed up and watched the rest of the movie. But I just decided, I was like, I'm kind of tired now. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to go to bed now. And then I got to watch the second half of it the next day in the morning on my phone, by the way. It was this is the new era that we're living in, right? I mean, this is the new experiment that Warner Brothers has kind of foisted on us, is the at-home blockbuster experience, which isn't necessarily any different than it was before, except we're all kind of seeing it in different ways now for the first time. And I kind of, once I got over the initial premise and just kind of went with it, I kind of enjoyed it. But it was a weird effing movie. What was your immediate reaction when you saw Wonder Woman 1984?
I don't know. I didn't think it was all that weird. I thought it was all over the place. Yeah, I didn't think it was weird.
Well, maybe that's why I'm using the word weird, because I felt like it was all over the place also.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't centralize itself in any way. Like, you didn't really know what the purpose or the premise of the purpose of the movie was. This is another Wonder Woman movie, Here's what Wonder Woman was doing in 1984. That's right. Fine. What's the problem? Why are we focusing on this particular moment in her life, in her thousands of years of being alive, or hundreds of years of being alive? And it took maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes for you to realize, oh, okay, she's got to do this. So, I mean, there are things about it I liked. I liked it was like, I did appreciate, in a strange way, the slow burn of, the problem just kind of gradually taking shape.
Right.
But I think it would have done better setting that up.
Yeah.
I think also it would have done better having other things going on while the problem gradually, while the larger problem gradually takes form.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of woman to woman jealousy, with Kristen Wiig's character.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like this stuff that's not.
My friend Victoria Rao.
I don't know if I wouldn't say it's not interesting, but it's not pivotal to it.
Well, it's funny, right? Because my friend Victoria Rao, she's a wonderful graphic novel writer and screenwriter, and we were talking about the movie, and she says it kind of sucks, but Cheetah wasn't necessary at all in this movie. Like, she didn't end up really doing anything.
But and that's I've heard other people say that. That's fine. I mean, look, I don't think you can throw characters in there. The characters don't always need to be there, right?
Right.
Cheater is just another obstacle. But I mean, here's the thing: if you're gonna put that character in there and as a point, make a point with that kind of character,
right?
Make it something more than jealousy, and I don't know. It's or because she kind of comes out of nowhere. She's kind of it would have been better if she was set up, and then you do Cheetah next movie,
Yeah.
So you could have the character there, you could have all that conflict there, but the fact that if she's got, it's the equivalent of Jamie Foxx's Electro.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Okay, you want to tell this story of you want to give me the character, you want to give me the character turning into a villain, you want to give me that villain's origin story, and then you want to resolve it all while all this other stuff is going on.
Yeah.
And so, and I kind of wish, and it's as a guy, I don't know if I
pun intended.
As a guy, I don't necessarily know if I, if I'll be forgiven for having this wish. I just wish her story was a little something more than being jealous of another woman,
Here's the funny thing, right? I'm okay if that's what the premise of her character is, or her position of her character is. But literally, she meets her in right? They meet her for the first time. Diana's very nice to her. They go out to dinner.
She's grudgingly nice, though. Diana's grudgingly nice. Because at first she's like, "Would you like to go to dinner?" And Diana's like, "No, hell no." And then
says, you know what? Hey, look, let's grab a lunch.
I am. That's what I'm saying. It's grudgingly.
My point being, it's not like she stole anything from her. It's not like she took the attention away from her. She was the only nice character.
No, I mean, in the context of it, she wished that she could be someone like Diana. Right. And then that slowly turned, but I don't necessarily understand why that becomes malignant. That's what I don't get.
No, there's no reason.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's in the context of that's not, does Cheetah have to be there? That's like, why does Cheetah have to be? The explanation that you gave for why Cheetah is a villain,
right? She became unnecessary because of what they ended up doing with her. Is I think what?
But I don't see. That's the thing. I argue. I don't think it's unnecessary. I think what they gave us was not well thought out.
Well, no, I'm agreeing with you. And to me,
I
know you're not saying she was unnecessary. I'm just saying by the end of the movie, because of what they gave to me, my conclusion is, well, that was unnecessary. Like they could have done so much more.
I disagree with that, but that's okay. That's
fine. I know we agree with they didn't really give her anything, and my conclusion is unnecessary. Your conclusion is something different. I agree. But again, it's like, and that was just weird, man. It was, and again, I use the word weird again, not in a. It was weird from a decision-making process. They start the movie off with this really cool like flashback to when Diana is, I guess maybe 9, 10 years old. I don't know, 13. I don't know if they gave an actual, age.
Yeah.
And even that was a little flimsy. It was super cool, and it was great to be back in her home world. It was great to see Robin Wright again. It was a great reminder of how good that first film was. And they're like, "Oh, you cheated," and I'm like, "Well, she didn't purposely cheat, but I guess, at the end of the day, I guess, all right." And that whole, arc of truth and truth matters never really materialized. Pedro Pascal's character wasn't seeking the truth, or he wasn't lying. He was granting wishes.
Well, the whole idea was that she cheated. The wishes are a cheat.
Yeah.
Wishing is cheating.
Yeah.
as opposed to getting like Kristen Wiig's character becoming super powerful and strong and becoming like Diana without actually having Diana's character or whatever is a cheat, and it turns you, those wishes go malignant on
Turns
you.
you into a crazy bee.
Huh? Yeah, and then, to answer the question, no, to answer the question from before, the theory is that she made the wish to become like Diana, and in doing so, she lost her humanity.
Right.
The thing that they did wrong was they didn't show how humane she was before she made the wish.
She was very nice to that homeless man, and then that was it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, most of it was resentment about,
right.
like, and your typical
right.
Small fish in a big pond kind of aesthetic.
Right.
So, I mean, look, I get it. I get what they're doing. I think the problem with the film is, like, it's a kitchen sink film. They threw everything into this. It seems like a lot of people had a lot of creative input, and they tried to take every suggestion that was made and try to make it work. And it just really doesn't work.
But no, I think that's a great point too, because I agree with that in the sense that I feel like they came into the writers' room, and Jeff Johns is credited as a co-writer on this as well too. And his track record of screenwriting, excellent comic book writer. His track record on screenwriting has been shaky at best, right? With the Green Lantern movie being credited to him, and I think he participated a lot in the Justice League debacle.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's
right.
Unfortunate.
But
it's like Chris Terrio, who, like, has the Rise of Skywalker and Justice League, and Batman versus Superman.
Right.
It's like, that's not good.
And meanwhile, he wrote Argo.
Yeah, and I don't know if that means that. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I don't know what the writer of Argo and then the writer of Batman versus Superman and the Rise of Skywalker. I don't know what that means.
Right.
I don't know if that means that he had help with Argo or he was being interfered with the other two movies.
Or you might be good at one thing. It doesn't make you good at everything. There's also that. And what's interesting too is at certain times I felt like they brought this one idea, which was, how do we get Chris Pine back into this movie? We kind of built a movie around that. I know a lot of people are kind of criticizing Pedro Pascal's performance and or character. I actually loved his performance. I think he was so gonzo, and the movie itself was so gonzo that it was again, his character arc didn't make a whole lot of sense when all was said and done. It was like loosely touched upon. It was like lightly touched upon. It was implied rather than felt in terms of, like, his son. Overall, though, I felt like the plots, and I use the word plots because I feel like there was multiple plots going on here, were just like an amalgamation of, like, bad sitcom plots. I remember the Buffy episode where Xander wishes that he was like the man, and at the end it obviously culminates in all these women fighting over him, kicking down basement doors and whatnot to try to get to him at the end. And that kind of was brought to mind. The idea again of Pedro Pascal's character with the son. I don't have a specific reference in mind, but I feel like I've seen that before in a number of movies and TV shows. And it's okay to retread these kind of things, to retread these kind of plots, but
is it? Because that's kind of not what you're saying.
No, in the way they executed it. Right, no, but I'm saying the way they executed it is where they fail. I mean, look, coming up with an original plot is not necessarily...
Fail is very strong.
What's that?
Fail is very strong. Fail is very strong.
Yeah, okay. So, I'll stand by my strong opinion.
Yeah. I'm just saying. So I don't agree with fail.
It became this pot, this soup of...
It is. It's a lot of stuff. It's a little too much stuff in a story. That's all. And I mean, I don't think that's what my issue with this whole thing is. I don't think it warrants this much examination. There's too much going on in this damn story, and that's why it seems like it doesn't have any focus. It doesn't have any focus because it doesn't have any damn focus.
Yeah.
That's all. Once we finally get to the issue I have is, like, okay, Gal Gadot is still Wonder Woman. It's still Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
You still like her character.
Yes.
You still root for her. So in that sense, another Wonder Woman story is a success. The villain was successful. Pedro Pascal is a successful villain. Like, it is the way they roll out his storyline. You can see how that, exactly how it became worse and worse for him. And I thought that was done well. Cheetah was unnecessary, as you say, but I mean, it could be there. I just wish they would have given her something a little more, or if they had left it alone and set it up, just like they did with Dr. Connors in Spider-Man 3, even though that's not a great example of another good movie. But I mean, like, just as long as they're setting up, like, okay, eventually he's going to become the Lizard, instead of making him the Lizard in that movie.
Right.
Eventually she's going to become Cheetah, and you can see this. You see the threads of how that's going to happen.
Right.
In this movie, that would have been good, and then you would have just been able to focus on Pedro Pascal and how granting wishes, wholesale style, can ruin the world, can destroy just about everything. So I don't think that was the issue. The issue is that the story had no real focus. You don't really know what the hero is supposed to do until maybe an hour in. And then by the time she figures out what she's supposed to do, she's already, virtually neutered in all her ability to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So she ends up talking the guy down. And that's kind of like, I didn't necessarily want to see her pummel him into the ground because he was a sympathetic villain. You could kind of understand how he fell down a rabbit hole and became a villain. So he didn't necessarily deserve to be beaten into submission. But I mean, it's an action movie. It's a superhero movie. So talking us, doing a Peter Pan and having the audience clap so that Pedro Pascal figures out he shouldn't be a villain anymore is not a great way to wrap up your third act.
Also, you don't get his origin as to why he's doing all this until the very end, when it kind of flashes through his life, and it's like.
But that's the thing, though. They established that he was kind of a con man, and he was, that he was this and that. So they didn't necessarily need to do his origin.
No,
because they did such a good job of establishing him as what he was from the beginning, a con man who was on his last legs, who got lucky with this thing that he immediately begins to abuse to the point where where things get worse and worse for him. So now I think to justify talking him down, they threw in his backstory at the very end. So you're like, oh, that's why she doesn't kill him,
But that's the problem with it, right? Because con man generally can, and especially if you're putting a con man in the villainous role, not in, because you can put a con man as a hero as well too, or an anti-hero, but obviously he's the villain of the film. He starts out as, well, you're a snake oil salesman, and then by the end, which I agree to your point, it's to kind of make it more palatable that they don't pummel him into the ground and that he somehow gets away scot-free. But you're like, well, wait a minute. He's not a con man at all. He's someone who's been picked on and talked down to, and you get hints of that throughout the film. But they start him out as this is what he is, and then he ends up as, no, he turns out to be this, and it's like, well, that journey did not make any sense then. This is like, you gave us the opposite journey, like the best way to set up a villain. Almost going back to Batman Returns, when you have Michelle Pfeiffer's character, who ascends into the villain. You kind of started Pedro Pascal as this devious, shyster, oh, I don't like this guy. And you're by the end, you're trying to make him into the sympathetic villain. And you're like, oh, that would have been helpful to have known all this stuff, or it would have been helpful.
I would argue he was always sympathetic just because of the nature of how he portrayed that character.
Yeah,
that it wasn't that you don't agree with him and you don't think that he doesn't deserve to be punished, right? That you don't think he's right ever, but you kind of get it. You are given enough threads that you get it. You do get that he's on his outs. You do get the fact that he kind of got lucky discovering this thing.
Right.
You do get the notion that he's an underdog who just got who got a leg up. Excuse all the stupid analogies, the metaphors, and so then you can then see why he would easily fall down this rabbit hole,
right,
and making things worse and worse and worse. But never once are you, man, this guy I want to see this guy get killed. That's at least for me. That wasn't
at the very least brought to justice, right? Because you're kind of like, yeah, sure.
I mean, I wanted to get brought to justice, but I never once were like, you got to kill this guy. This guy's just, it's just it's one of this guy does not know what he's playing with. Right. That's the main crux of it. It's not this guy is evil. This guy just does not have any clue what he's messing with, and he's just gonna keep going until everything falls apart, and then he finally figures it out. And you pretty much get that impression. I don't know, maybe about an he's when he's starting to take over nations. Then you're like, okay, dude, this is all gonna. There's no way this gets better for you. Also, they made him smart because he figured out how to manipulate the gift. He figured out how to make it everybody else's kind of fault or everybody else's wish, so that he would, in the aggregation, he would get back all he lost in his initial wish, while everybody else was, basically losing their most prized possessions or whatever.
Right.
So it's in that case, it was very interesting. In that case, the character and the power that they gave him is a very unique villain for a superhero story.
Sure.
I think if they had, left out some of the weird ethical dilemmas that they had, yes. I don't know why Steve had to take over someone else's body to come back. I don't know. I don't get why that had to happen.
Yeah.
Because the ethical dilemma should have been, I got Steve back, but I lost my powers. And now she has to choose between the two. It's not really an ethical dilemma if you got that guy back and he stole someone else's body. You gotta get that guy his body back. Yeah. So it kind of cancels out Diana's, the pathology of Diana's character at that point, because there was no question what she had to do. If she had gotten Steve back free and clear, but she stopped being Wonder Woman, that's a dilemma.
My other friend Victoria.
That's like Superman losing his powers, right? That's a genuine dilemma,
right?
That okay, I gotta either save the world or lose my, or stop being human, right? That the way they made it out to be, it's like, yeah, Diana, you're gonna have to give this guy back. Like it was.
My other friend Victoria texted me and she's like, I heard Wonder Woman raped a guy. And I'm like, no, maybe I'm not really, but that's a weird,
That's what I'm saying.
It was a weird movie, dude. Like it just brings it back. Like,
it's not. I mean, the thing is, the problem with the film, and the problem that a lot of people are having with being on the fence is, all the seeds in this movie are fine. All of them work. You have the seeds of a really good movie.
Yes.
If you had done one or two things differently, that's the problem. It's like some of the choices that you made in how you're in finalizing how you're going to depict certain things. That doesn't make any sense. Why did Steve has to? It's a whole movie
it's a
about
magical wish stone.
Yeah, it's a whole movie about making wishes, and none of it has to be based in reality. Why does he have to? Why do you have to logically have him take some guy's body over?
I know
that cancels out the dilemma in and of itself.
Right.
There's no choice.
Right.
If you're a hero, you gotta get that guy's body back.
Right.
So it doesn't. A lot of it just doesn't make any sense. The Linda Carter, like, spoiler, the Linda Carter moment at the end was like the weirdest. Like, okay, that's cool to see Linda Carter back, but the way she turned around like a game show host, like when the woman, she's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Linda Carter. I'm the original Wonder Woman, and I'm here to sell you real estate." That's kind of like what it felt like. And it just like, why that take?
Again, it was, like you said, it was a cool seed to have her there because, she was the warrior that they built the suit for. Okay, so then it's a nod. That's kind of like having, the George Takei kind of nods to George Takei in the Star Trek films and stuff like that. And that's like, it's cool when it's done well. In this particular case, it was
he thought that was not done well because he didn't want that to happen. But all right, that's
no, understood. Well, I'm not saying necessarily it was done well in Star Trek either. I'm just saying that it can be done in a way that was.
I'm just saying that her twirl when she twirls around and kind of flips her head like a 1950s movie actress. Like, why did you? Why did she do a Lauren Bacall just there? Like that doesn't look good. That just looks terrible. It looks like she turned around knowing, hey, I'm Linda Carter. She wasn't playing a character just then.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, man. I don't know what some of the decisions were just. That's why the movie is all over the place.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of the decisions didn't originate with the creative team that devised the movie in the first place.
I don't know.
I don't know if I'm not going to blame it all on the studio. I'm talking about just in general. Like, it seems like all these ideas are coming from everywhere. They're coming from all sides, and they try to incorporate every idea. And I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah,
it'll go down in history as the same dilemma as to why Benioff and Weiss did Game of Thrones, did the last season of Game of Thrones like that. Like we're all. By all conventional means of what we know, they didn't have to end the show that way. Why did you make that decision? Why is Steve stealing someone's body?
Yeah.
Why is, it's weird. It's very strange. A lot of times with me in movies like this, I dislike them because I think we've already covered this ground, right? We've already the audience is smart enough to see around this stuff. So you shouldn't be making movies on these weak themes anymore because everybody kind of knows that. So my issue with Kristen Wiig's character is like, well, kid, you're gonna have to love yourself. We know this. So you get a character who doesn't love themselves and wants to be like someone else. And ultimately, that makes them evil.
Right.
Even though it was the wish stone that did it, that took her humanity away. It's just like, what is this? Like this, of course we know that that's not what you're supposed to do with your, like with your gifts. Of course we all know this. Why are we treading this ground? This is the strangest thing. And it's kind of cool. It would be cool to have Diana have her boyfriend back. And then, like, I don't care about saving the world. I got Steve back. And then that being the main dilemma that she has to go through.
Yeah.
But no, by the way you did it, it's like you took that pathology away. So, yeah. But, hey, man, I was sitting at home on my sofa. And so I was digging it.
All right. Well, I'm glad you said that. When we come back, we'll give you a little bit of feedback from social media circles. We'll give a deeper dive, but what we really want to talk about is the great Wonder Woman 1984 experiment on HBO Max. Will it kill fandom? When we come back.
Welcome to Button Stash, the show about the best mustaches in gaming.
Casey, it's Button Smash. It's the new gaming podcast from the Rogue Matter Network. I don't know where you got mustaches from.
Well, I'm not shaving. But we will talk about gaming news, reviews, inside scoops, and retrospectives.
Join us live on twitch.tv/WeAreRogueMatter on Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, or download our episodes wherever you listen to your podcast.
But please, Casey, shave.
Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, part of the Rogue Matter podcast network. Check out our sister podcast, Button Smash, if you like video games. Check out all of their awesome commentary. They come back, not this week. We did a special show this week. They're going to come back next week because they happen to fall on New Year's Eve this year. And they'll be covering all the latest video game topics with their no spin. I did a terrible job promoting their podcast there, but check it out anyway, despite my awful job promoting it. We were talking Wonder Woman 1984, and Hassan, you kind of left off with the last thing. Well, at least I got to see it in the comfort of my own living room. That was in and of itself a giant risk from WB. They're putting all of their new releases on HBO Max, and it's usually a big movie-going weekend, Christmas weekend, but obviously with the pandemic going, it was the only way to do it, so it was a simultaneous debut. So let's go through some numbers real quick, and then we're going to talk about something a little bit greater that I set up horribly in the first segment, which is the experience of viewing a blockbuster at home. What does it do to change the discourse about it on social media? See, that would have been a much more astute way to do it. But first, let's go through some numbers. At the box office, despite many cinemas being closed and a winter COVID wave threatening moviegoing, Wonder Woman opened to an estimated 16.7 million over the Christmas weekend, the best 3-day debut at the distressed domestic box office since coronavirus began. Any sign of moviegoing is welcome news for Hollywood, even if Wonder Woman 84 scored the lowest number in decades for a Yuletide winner. How to do on HBO Max? Warner Media said that nearly half of the platform's retail subscribers viewed the film on the day of its arrival, along with millions of wholesale subscribers who have access to HBO Max via cable, wireless, or other partner services. HBO Max had just over 3.6 million retail subscribers as of October 1st, but that was before the announcement the film would debut, and on the same day it hits theaters, and before the HBO Max app was available on Amazon Fire and Roku devices. It shows promise for HBO Max, according to an audience survey. According to a Screen Engine survey, 23% of those viewing Wonder Woman 84 signed up for the streaming service in order to watch the superhero sequel. Among that group, 14% said they would continue to subscribe, while 9% are likely to cancel soon. And they are fast-tracking a Wonder Woman 3, as fans around the world continue to embrace Diana Prince, driving the strong opening weekend performances. We are excited to be able to continue her story with our real-life Wonder Women, Gail and Patty, who will return to conclude the long-planned theatrical trilogy. Toby Emmerich said Sunday. Jenkins will be on Star Wars duty first, however, but then be around to complete the third film in the trilogy. So those are some numbers. I wanted to kind of throw this into the equation, though. I found this article on comicbook.com, and I thought it was kind of interesting, too, because I kind of talked to you at the beginning of this segment, or the beginning of the show, how, I set aside time Friday night after we put the kids to bed, and, Christmas Day was done, and, all this fun stuff kind of happened. I said, boy, it's 9:00. It's a 2.5-hour movie. I can completely do this and not wreck myself for the next day. And great, I got the time to do it. I'm going to watch this movie. And the first 40 minutes, to me, as I detailed in the first segment, very slow, very kind of all over the place. A lot of setup that eventually didn't really go in the direction that they were setting up necessarily. But by the 40-minute mark, I think I even texted you. I'm like, I'm going to bed. Like, this is just boring, and it's just not. And I have the luxury of doing that. And the next day, instead of watching it on my big screen TV, I'm watching it on my phone because I just don't, I have kids to watch and whatnot. The experience itself was completely different than what it would have been in the theaters. And it was palpable, for me. And you even kind of mentioned it. You were in your living room. Did you find the experience to be better, worse, different? And then I'll get into this, what this article kind of talks about in a second. But I'm just curious. What was the experience for you of watching it? Not the content of the film, but the experience of watching a film like this, from the comfort of your living room.
That's a good question. I don't know. I think I was definitely comfortable. I was definitely happy to see it. And therefore, taking out the money that you spend to see a movie, taking out the travel that you have to go to in the movie, especially me, because I don't have a car right now. So, like, if I would want to go see a movie, I got to take a bus or a train or something like that.
Sure.
Or Uber. So taking all that out and then taking, whatever retail nightmare you run into, like, whether you get a good guy at the concession stands or whether or not you get a couple behind you talking about their cat or something ridiculous. All of that stuff goes into the experience of, and then on top of that, watching a movie that's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
That might add that might contribute to dislike, very strong dislike of the experience as total, in a whole. Whereas when you eliminate a lot of those other things and you just have to take the movie all alone, you might be more charitable with it.
Yeah.
Because, you're watching it on your own terms and all those other, logistics are not a factor. So I don't know. I couldn't honestly tell you.
Yeah.
If I saw this in the film, would I be as charitable with it as I am?
I got to tell you,
probably not.
I actually,
Probably
it
not.
made me miss being in the theater. I have a nice home setup. I mean, it's a 58-inch screen, so it's definitely big enough. I didn't get my new sound bar until after, so it would have been, the sound quality. It was, I kind of have to listen to it a little quieter if I'm at night because I don't want to wake the kids up and things like that. I actually found watching it on my phone to be more enjoyable, ironically enough. But again, what a completely different experience that is versus being in the theater, experiencing the sound, experiencing the effort, as you kind of put it. There's something to getting excited to go out somewhere and do something. It makes it more of an event. It makes it more of an attraction. I think this is actually, we talk about this, and we talked about this with Kevin Bacon a few months ago too. I think this is actually a win for box offices, believe it or not. I feel like audiences will want to go see these kind of movies out and about rather than on their own terms. I don't know. This is just my opinion. I have nothing factual to back this up or no data to back this up, but I felt like my experience watching it, and maybe it's being in lockdown also, right? I mean, who knows? Maybe 3 years from now, I'll be sitting there saying like, hell no, I'm not going to the movie theater, even though I can go to the movie theater and it's safe to go to the movie theater. I don't know. Maybe it is just a thirst to want to get out, but having this power over how I watch it it actually was a negative to me. It definitely felt different than what it typically would have felt like. It felt like it lessened the, I don't use the word excitement, but that's kind of what I'm going at. I don't know. It lessened the impact of it for me, knowing that I could just turn this off. I don't know. Like Birds of Prey was not a good movie, but I sat there for 2.5 hours because I bought my movie ticket and I was getting the most out of my experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all relative, right? It's all going to be exactly how it's all basis on how you feel about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to articulate it any better way. I mean, it's going to be different for everybody, but I think it's always going to be better. I think a lot of people are going to feel it's better to be able to sit in your house and view it, because interacting with other people is becoming a worse and worse experience, and now it's technically lethal. It could be potentially lethal, right?
No, again, remove the danger element out of it.
That's what I'm saying. That you can't really, because a lot of that is, the danger element is what incorporated this whole thing in the first place, right? It's what's enabling this. So you can't really, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you can't really eliminate that as a factor either. And there's also there's introverted people. There's antisocial people. There's all these other forms of personality that would thrive because of the circumstance. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know whether or not this would be, this. I don't know how I would feel about it if this was the way things could be forever. I don't know if that would enhance the experience or lessen the experience. Of course, there are going to be things where you watch, if this became a real thing, there would be things you watch and you'd be like, man, this would have been really great to see in a theater, right? Because it happens now. Like, there are movies you've missed in the theater and you catch them on home video for the first time, and whatever form of home video you have, and you're like, man, I would have loved to have seen this epic scene in a giant movie theater with a whole bunch of people,
Right.
So it's always going to be there. It's all going to be contingent on who you are, where you are at the time.
So I found this article on comicbook.com kind of talking about this, and they titled this article, I think, in the wrong way. It was an interesting article, but they said, will blockbuster movie home releases kill fandom? And that's what I led with coming into the segment, but it's not really the conversation they're having here. With the lukewarm reception to Wonder Woman 1984, some are wondering whether a big part of the underwhelming response has to do with its release direct to HBO Max, where audiences could sit at home, talk back at the screen, and watch it on their own terms for less than $10. It's certainly an interesting question. Will fandom be broken down by a process that reduces the urgency and entry costs? In the past, major motion pictures like Wonder Woman would have had audiences primarily made up of people excited to see it and willing to plan their night around shelling out $15 to go see it in a theater, where the communal experience can inflate your opinion of the experience itself. The toxic and cruel fandoms that the internet has brought to life doesn't seem to have fundamentally changed the enthusiasm fans have for big blockbusters, and their pervasive negativity is certainly a far cry worse and more vocal than the average Joe fan saying, it could have been better. What this likely means is that more that fandoms will be seen the way they have always traditionally been seen, as niche parts of the audience rather than a representative sample of the wider world. Basically, to summarize the article, they're wondering, since the fanatics are the ones that go to the theater, it's a more exclusive. They talk about the democratization of the response now. The democratization of the response is now you have people that aren't super fans, DC fans, blockbuster fans, Wonder Woman fans, et cetera, who now have access to this movie where they might not have had access to the movie on the opening weekend. Studios judge reaction based on opening weekend, and now it's kind of all over the place. And look, the reactions, I'll give you a couple Facebook reactions that I got when I posted it to the Facebook page /Rogue Matter Podcasts. I got awesome fun from Kurt Christensen. I got Chris Tibbs, not rewatchable. Jack O'Donnell, who we seduced to the dark side when we discussed The Last Jedi with him. Quantifiably terrible. Too long, murky plot, no development for a greater story. So you get these all over the place reactions. But it's, again, this is now people that you would not typically.
Yeah. So the complaint of the article is that it's going to be really hard to gatekeep with everybody involved in opinion making. Yes. And the article is here comes one. The article is bullshit. So there you go.
Bing.
Thank you.
I don't know if
it's I mean, look, I think basically without the home video or the home experience, I think the lukewarmness of it would be outright outrage, or dislike, right? Because the gatekeepers were like, this is not the movie I want, and therefore I'm gonna downvote it everywhere I can go. Right. And because it is broadly available to everybody, and everybody can weigh in on an opinion, you get a lot more, of an even reaction to it. Like, I liked it, well, I didn't, as opposed to any one thing lopsided. Oh, and that's kind of the way it should be. It should be like that. Things should be open. Everybody should be allowed to weigh in on their opinion of whether they like this thing or not. Maybe we'll get a lot of less review bombing and all that other stuff where people have been weaponizing social media against, I think it's a better thing for movies to have more people weigh in on how they feel about it than worse. I can't even understand what the article is trying to say.
It's the word of mouth theory, right? Like, the word of mouth theory is, well, you got to go see this film, because the people who go and actually took the time out to go on opening weekend are like, you got to go see this film. Or the people that took the time out and are like, this is a big waste of time. It directly impacts the box office result.
The article's not even talking about. It's not even talking about the film, though. The article's talking about how come the fans' complaints aren't being taken seriously? That's basically what the article's saying. Like, the fans' ability to judge a film is being diminished because too many people are able to judge a film. That article
on the opening weekend, which traditionally would not have been right.
It's nonsense. It's
which
the dumbest complaint I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily complaining. It's bringing up this issue of. But I think the ironic part is, I think it's actually, like you said, it's actually a positive, right? Because we argue all the time that Twitter is not real life. and it demonstrates itself over and over again in media, in politics, in sports, in all the aspects, right? Twitter as a platform is designed for you to get the impression that what you are seeing is the opinion of the mass majority. It's like doing research, market data research, focus groups, without any kind of controls on it. If somebody is trending, 2,000 people could tweet something about a particular topic, and that will get it trending. And then if you were to go and click on that trending topic, you would just be like, "Oh my gosh, everyone hated
consensus.
this movie."
The whole world is
clearly everyone hates this movie. But then you
disgusted
realize
by the rise of Skywalker. It's
right?
Like, no,
Really,
no.
you're like, wait a minute, 2,000 people. That's not even a concert venue of amount of people.
That's what I'm talking about. We always argue about the preponderance argument. Like, everybody agrees with this. Like,
Right.
I have consensus of, the majority agrees with me. No, it doesn't. You don't have a metric for that.
Right.
So this is literally saying, this is blowing the grift wide open.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the article's saying. The fact that everybody can weigh in is blowing the control grift wide open, and anybody could say something. We cannot appropriately tank this movie because too many people are coming in with their it wasn't that bad. I kind of enjoyed it. So I mean, yeah, it doesn't mean the movie's great. That doesn't mean that good movies are that are going to fall by the wayside and bad movies are going to take over, or that bad movies will not receive their proper criticism. That doesn't mean that. It just means you don't have control over what good and bad is.
Right.
That's all it means. And look, that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because there's way too much disingenuousness out there, about movies and about whether or not they are, publicly loved or hated. There's way too much room for that to be a grift.
Yeah.
And I think we need to lessen that as much as humanly possible.
The one thing that I can say for certain over this past Christmas weekend was that DC, Marvel took their shots with their Marvel Investor Day and their Star Wars news and the Marvel news and all that other stuff. DC basically dominated the Christmas discussion, though. And this is our Rogue Rage, all the rage in the pop culture universe. So the great Wonder Woman 1984 to HBO Max experiment is out into the world, which was doubtless a timed release of future, and what was doubtless a time, I don't know where I got this from, but is a future release of future DC film news is finally rolling out. Warner Media has been super mum about the future of DC plans, especially amid all the controversy about their HBO Max plans. But the vehicle for the reveal is a New York Times profile of DC Films president Walter Hamada, written by industry vet Brooks Barnes. The piece is chock full of news and yet another direction for DC Films, a unit that has been key to Warner Brothers' future for a long time. Among the revelations, HBO WB plans to release up to 4 DC-related films a year starting in 2022. They will not be a grand MCU-style connected universe, but a multiverse approach that allows for multiple Batmans and more. The smash hit non-continuity Joker film was a template for this. The cinematic multiverse will be introduced in the Flash film, which is currently scheduled for July 1st, and it will usher in the multiverse concept that was first started in 1958. Batfleck and Michael Keaton will both be featured in the film. Films featuring riskier characters, that is the quote from the piece, including Batgirl and Static Shock, may be released direct to HBO Max. The story is other DC spin-offs will be HBO Max first. And how does it fit in with HBO Max is Hamada's directive from on high. And finally, this kind of came out of it too. The Zack Snyder plan for a unified Justice League universe is officially on the trash heap, despite the imminent arrival of his 4-hour Justice League cut. Insiders have deemed this plan a cul-de-sac, a snide put-down that shows you how Snyder rates at the studio these days, essentially a film that leads nowhere. A cul-de-sac is it just spins you around in circles and leads nowhere. Finally, we were supposed to mention it last week. We had too much to talk about with Mandalorian. Margot Robbie says Birds of Prey sequel isn't imminent as well. That was outside of this piece in the New York Times, but figured it's all kind of wrapped into the DC blanket. What's your reaction to the Zack Snyder shot that was apparently taken there. That is a cul-de-sac film.
It's Warner Brothers shooting itself in the foot again.
Right?
Typically. Why say that before the film comes out and either becomes a hit or is a failure?
Yeah.
Like why hamstring it before it even gets out of the gate?
The thing that's so amazing to me about that too, and I agree with you 100%. Like, why would you even say that? Because it hasn't even come out yet. It brought back flashbacks to when executives first viewed his original cut, which then leaked as well too. They were like, "Oh, this is not good. We got to bring Joss Whedon and save it." Things like this just keep
which was a big mistake,
right? It keeps making Zack Snyder this like martyr for the fandom cause somehow. Like, I don't understand. It boggles the mind.
Because they don't know what they're doing. Look, well, because they should pursue their own template for success and stop chasing the MCU. And that's what this whole thing has been about.
Right.
They're trying to copy the success business model of another company instead of being Warner Brothers and just relying on their own successful story, which is, it's not the MCU, but it's been, the Warner Brothers is not a joke, right? But Warner Brothers has spent the last, decade trying to copy another company, and they're not willing to make the sacrifices that the MCU has made in order to get their brand to the level that it's at
it
this
just
point.
keeps but again,
and they're not showing the fortitude or the reliance and or the forbearance that the creators of the MCU has been able to
it's
display.
just like shots like this just make Zack Snyder, it elevates him even more. His films have not been very good. They just haven't. Like, that's point blank. And that's fine.
I don't agree with that, but okay.
But you're making him, you're elevating him in the fandom's eyes as this like martyr for the cause of some. I don't know what the cause is, but there's articles out there. Oh, Zack Snyder was removed from Wonder Woman 1984, and look, it was a failure. And it's like, well, A, his name was there, he was in the production credits, but B, why would you think that Zack Snyder being involved in Wonder Woman 1984 would have made it better based on his track record of Batman v Superman and even Man of Steel, which is not a bad film, but I think misses the mark in a lot of people's eyes. It baffles me. This whole thing baffles me as to why this stuff.
I'm telling you, because when you base everything, all your creative decisions on, is this the same creative decision that this other company made, without the talent, without the actual talent that the other company has to make those creative decisions in the first place, then all it is it's gonna be a shadow of what of what the other company has been able to create, with a lot of infighting and sniping as to why they have not achieved the same level of greatness. It's not. It's not even a mystery. It's like, just be your own thing. Just do your own thing. Some of the stuff that they want multiple. One of the new additions now, they want multiple versions of the same characters. Movies of the same characters from different universe, from multiverses. Right? They want two different Batmans happening at the same time.
Yeah,
there's two different Jokers happening at the same time. Like, that's they clearly don't know what they're doing. And not because that won't work. I'm not saying that won't work. It just doesn't sound good. Like, it doesn't make sense when you think about it. It
does in a larger sense, but I agree with you. If they had a stronger central vision,
it doesn't.
Like,
why would you have two Batmans coming out at this? Why would you have two Batman movies competing with themselves?
Right.
That business, theoretically makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's like opening a restaurant and opening another restaurant across the street from your restaurant. Now you've got these two restaurants of your own brand competing with themselves, whereas if you'd put it 5 blocks down, it would be competing with the other rents that are out there. So it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And it doesn't sound like it makes sense even to a layman. That's the problem, so I don't know.
What do you guys think?
It's when you're creatively bankrupt.
What did you think of that, about the Great Wonder Woman experiment? What do you think about the new Zack Snyder news? Drop comments in the feed. We will always be as
if they haven't been commenting all this time.
No, already. I know. I'm just encouraging. I'm encouraging.
Don't encourage
I'm getting.
Don't encourage the mob.
I'm
Do not
encouraging the
encourage the mob.
democratization
It's not
of our Facebook feed.
The mob rule is not democracy.
I am.
That is not a
encouraging
democracy.
The democratization of our Facebook.
No,
feed. When
you're
we come
not.
back, it's the holiday season. We're going to give you our favorite Christmas adjacent movies. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. Again, every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, we do this on Facebook.com/Rogue Matter Podcasts. And join the movement. Go Rogue, RogueMatter.com. All right. It's still the holiday week. We usually take this week off, but we're here for you out there. And the fact that they launched Wonder Woman. So I was thinking about all these different things we can do that are Christmas movie related, because that's a big thing. I figured originally maybe the top 5 Hassan Christmas movies, which we can still do. We can still do a nice countdown of Hassan's Christmas movies.
Well, if I don't celebrate Christmas, I wouldn't have Christmas movies, though.
That's not necessarily true, though. They're still a genre. It's Christmas movies. Right?
Yeah.
I
would
all-time
have seen them. I don't know if I would categorize them in a top 5 position. But
my all-time favorite Christmas movie is Love Actually, which the ironic part about that is that movie. It's one of those like guilty pleasure kind of movies. Like you kind of just you catch it on cable every year because they play it around this time, and eventually you're like, damn, I really love this movie. And then you kind of like hide it, but then you realize, like, you read like all these articles and it's like everybody has the same feel. Like there's so many people that are like, Love Actually is my favorite movie. And you're like, oh, I'm not the only one. So it's actually my favorite Christmas movie. It's just such a nice movie.
Okay.
What's your favorite Christmas movie? Even though you don't celebrate Christmas.
Probably Christmas Vacation. National Lampoon's Christmas.
It's a solid entry.
Some say. Some don't. Some don't feel that way.
Not as good as the original National Lampoon's Vacation. Far superior to the European Vacation now. Far superior.
Or Vegas Vacation.
Oh, I don't even. Okay, actually, no, I take that back.
Right.
I think.
Does that mean it doesn't exist since you don't count it?
Vegas Vacation is also better than European Vacation. Only because he calls himself Nick Papagiorgio. That's it. That's all I remember about that movie. And it's pretty good. I kind of like it. I kind of dig that. So, you know what movie?
Anyway, Christmas Vacation would be my favorite movie.
You know a Christmas movie that I think is extremely overrated? Elf.
I've never seen
Will Ferrell's great, but what's that?
I've never seen it.
You've never seen Elf? Really?
No, Michael, because I don't have Christmas movies.
I know exactly what we're going to do this time next year for our segment. We're going to do a retro review. Elf.
This time next year, you'll be on to something else. You'll have totally forgotten about it.
That is an accurate statement.
Yes, I know. Which is why I'm comfortable with you saying it this time.
That is
okay, that sounds great. I'll be there.
Plausibly accurate, unless I put it in my calendar. If I put it in my calendar a year from now, the notification will pop up and I'll go, "Oh yeah, we were supposed to do that." Yeah, we ain't got no time for that.
Exactly. It's exactly what I expect.
Marvel just announced they will be transmitting all of their movies right into our brain.
Right into no, not into our brains. They will be transmitting their movies right into your brain. That will kind of complete the circle of the weirdest decisions that movie theaters have made in the last 2 or 3 years. We're gonna give all these movies to Michael Dolce. What? Why? Because this is gonna be great. Because trust me, it's gonna be great.
Because I was trending on Twitter, and
yes,
so, it made sense.
2,000 people said give it to Dolce, and so the movie's like, here you go, beam him right into Dolce's head, whether he likes it or not.
Like,
He's not even gonna ask for it.
It's got to be true. I mean, I just scroll endlessly. I can't get through 2,000 people. Got to be true. This has to be what people want.
Exactly. This is what movie executives base their entire living.
I definitely don't even want that. I got to be honest. There's no part of me that would. There's no part.
Come on,
of me
all
that
of
would
Phase 4, and people would have to come to you, and you would have to act them out for the genuine audience,
Yeah.
or the general audience in English. Okay, all right. So, Elf, you hate Elf.
No,
I've
I
never
think
seen
it's
Elf.
overrated. My wife loves it, and she makes us watch it every year. And I'm always
It's a Will
like,
Ferrell movie, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess it's
okay.
not that overrated. I think it's like every Will Ferrell movie though, where it just kind of grows on you after a while. But like, I don't
You know
know.
what's overrated Christmas movie is A Christmas Story. I love that movie, but it's an overrated. It's overdone. It's overbaked.
I don't disagree with you.
You know, it's a good movie. It was really better when I was young, where all of those jokes were new before everything became meta, and
Yeah.
so it was meta before meta was even a phrase that people
Right.
used. But now it's just kind of like, like a fanciful tradition that everybody really enjoys. But
Yeah.
do those jokes really land anymore? Does the dad having a
I
giant
skip over it when it's on. I know it's on
leg,
all the time.
lamp in the window? Is that
Yeah.
really funny anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I skip over it.
Or
They
the
have those
strange
marathons.
racism of the Chinese Christmas with them singing Deck the Halls, which is like, wow. Wow, in today's world, this doesn't work. This
right.
doesn't work. Because like in the 90s, Gal Gadot having sex with a complete stranger in someone else's body would not be considered rape.
No.
Everybody, all the dudes would be like, hell yeah. Hell yeah. But now even the guys are like, hey, that's not right. This is wrong on so many levels.
They're saying it's not right. But they're still
There's some
still
people
thinking.
out there who genuinely think it's not cool. I mean, there are some people who are
Well, it's not cool if you
signaling.
can't remember it. I mean, that's
You are the wrong person to talk ethics with, obviously. Okay. All right, well, there you go. There's your Christmas movie. Elf.
real
Gotcha.
quick. Everyone does the Die Hard a Christmas movie. I don't even want to touch that. That was one of the thoughts that I had, was like, oh, will we tackle this debate? No, this debate, I don't even care about it. But what it did think about was, no matter what, it's undeniable. It is a Christmas themed movie. Like, it is, the setting is Christmas, right? Yes. So what are other notable Christmas set, where Christmas is the we were talking about this off air. You had a great one, which was Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon, yeah.
Which was also Shane Black.
Yes.
And you go through the list, Shane Black I don't think he's written a movie that has not taken place during Christmas. With the exception of Monster Squad, which was Halloween.
Well, I don't know. I can only think of two.
But there was also not Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. What was the other one that he did? He did another movie that also was set during Christmas movies. Yeah, Shane Black Christmas movies. Yeah, he's the king.
Lethal Weapon. There's
it was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Okay, and Lethal
Last
Weapon
Boy
and
Scout.
Iron Man 3.
Iron Man
Last
3.
Boy Scout was Christmas? Was that Christmas?
This
that
is
wasn't
what
Christmas.
It says. I don't know. It's what it says. And
Christmas
look, tour.com can't be wrong. I mean, it's tour, right?
Okay. I don't remember Christmas aesthetic in The Last Boy Scout.
Yeah.
But I might be wrong. I haven't seen it in a long
Lethal
time.
Weapon, Iron Man 3. Man, what is this guy's thing with Christmas here?
He likes Christmas. He's all right. He's entitled. He makes good movies. He writes good movies that takes place during Christmas. If he was Chris Terrio and he wrote a percentage of sucky movies that took place at Christmas, I'd be making more hay out of it. But
this is true, actually. This is true. The end result does matter, right? Like people wouldn't be complaining about HBO Max like me if Wonder Woman 1984 was any good.
I don't think it was. I think the problem with it is that the gatekeepers, according to the article you read, are not able to say it's no good. And I think that's one of the main problems with it. So it's not that it's no good. It's just that we can't get consensus that it's no good.
Yeah. And isn't that in and of itself the greatest gift at all?
I don't know what you're talking about now.
Hope you guys enjoyed the show. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I've been drinking a lot of egg. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful holiday season. We have New Year's coming up. Happy New Year to everybody. And we will be back next week with more of the pop culture news you guys love to talk about.
We'll be back next year.
Ooh, that joke never gets old.
Which is
See
why I
you
make
guys next week. Year.
Rogue Wave.